Well, let's speak now to Ensia Irfani, who was a physics professor in Iran, and she resigned in September last year after the protests began. Thank you so much for joining us, Ensia. Tell us a little bit about why you made that decision, because it had no small effect on your life, did it?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Actually, the tragic death of Mahsa Amini was so grief for me as a female, and also being in a university, hearing that after the death of the Mahsa, the students shouting that, calling for their professors to support them in their protest. I really feel my responsibility that I should do something. And since that time I was not in Iran and I could not participate in the protest, I decided to just resign to show that I will not work for the brutal regime of Iran, because it doesn't really make sense to stay in a system that's killing your people and your students.
Yes, and just what has been the impact more widely then of the protests on universities and education, not just your institution?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we are really aware that after the death of the Mahsa, although the universities were not opening officially, because the academic year starts in Iran the first day of autumn, and that was the day I resigned, the students were the ones who started protesting inside of the universities. And actually, they were the ones that ignited the protest. And that's why the system is still worried about what's going to happen in the University of Iran in a week. And in most of the universities, they mentioned that the courses are going to run online, although we don't have any more the COVID problem in Iran. So the point is that, what's happening in the side of the University of Iran, although even the protest seems that calmed down, they are under suppression. And in the last few weeks, we heard about firing of the faculty members. Almost 100 faculty members lost their job or forced to retirement.
And Sia, how do you feel when you look at what's happening in Iran? And because from what I understand, you're not planning, you can't go back at this stage. So it must feel heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's really sad story even for me, because when I left Iran for going for a sabbatical leave for 3 months, I just packed my luggage for 3 months and I just forced to stay in exile. That I never had a plan for that. But I'm not talking about myself. When the nation wake up, you cannot force that nation to sleep again. So that's what's happening in Iran. And I'm really sure that, especially with these intelligent and really brave Iranian students, females, young and old people, we will win this revolution in really near future. And of course, it's really completely clear that with the suppression that system has done in the streets and also in the universities, they are completely afraid what's going to happen in following weeks and following months. And I'm sure that if the university is open, the students will not stop dealing with the regime anymore.
Well, Ensia, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us and to talk about the situation that you've been in since last year. Ensia, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.